Hi guys, welcome back. So what I want to do is rate all these July tours for the four teams I mainly follow, England, Ireland, Wales and Scotland. Now with my rating, I'm not doing a 1 to 10 like I used to do a long time ago because it's just a bit too arbitrary. Some people's 5 is another person's 7. So I'm kind of using more of a description, but it's still of course subjective. So let me know how you would rate all these tours. I'm going to rate them on below expectations, met expectations or above expectations. And expectations is a combination of kind of the general consensus before the tours, my expectations, and maybe what I thought the countries themselves might want to privately get out of these tours. So starting of England's tour of Australia, in test 1 it was a narrow loss, 30 points to 28, so on the scoreboard looks very close, but there was that red card to Swain. Australia played very direct, which was interesting. A lot of Brumbies forward, so I guess that made sense, but they definitely opened up more after that first game. Smith and Farrell tried to create off good forward platform, but it didn't really work, to be honest. But there were late tries from Arundel and Jack Van Portfleet, the subs, but it was too little too late. A few discipline issues, and England made a bit of a hash of that first one, to be fair, so that narrow loss. So then they came back with that useful win, 17 points to 25 in the second test. It was a change of approach. All the damage was done in the first half. Now they started Jack Van Portfleet, who had a very disciplined, organised kicking game, really on point. England's forwards were very powerful. We had Genge smashing Tupu, which was exciting. England had definitely simplified. They were still playing Smith and Farrell, but Jack Van Portfleet, like I said, really putting those kicks on the money. They got the job done in the first half. Australia came back a bit, but yeah, 17-25, good win. Then it all came down to the third test. Super exciting stuff, and England get it done, 17-21. Now in the third test, a close win for England, 17-21. This is where Australia threw the kitchen sink at England. Their attack was really going at England, but the defence of the English stood firm. Some seriously impressive stuff again from the forwards. Genge with that huge bump on Karevi. Good stuff from him. England's backline, yeah, they struggled once again. Porter had been started, but really struggled all game. Eddie Jones made a bold substitution, taking Danny Kerr off in the first half, Van Portfleet on. The impact there was immediately, and Stewart scores. Smith swoops on a mistake to score, and that was the job done. So how would I rate this tour? Well, I think it goes into the met expectations for me. You know, it's another good away win, tour win from Eddie Jones. That's a real big positive, and when the pressure was on, the individuals responded. However, there definitely were issues, especially in that back line. The Martin Gleeson attack isn't working yet. They do have some time to put it right, but that's definitely an issue. But the forwards stepped up, the defence stepped up, and they got that away win. Now on to the tour that we thought was going to be the showpiece of these July series, and it absolutely was. New Zealand versus Ireland. All 3 tests were fantastic to watch. The first test, no exception, at Eden Park. New Zealand got the job done and secured that Eden Park record once again, 42-19, so big scoreboard win, although Ireland started really well, as they did every single game. But then it was the clinical tries from New Zealand, some absolutely critical errors from Ireland for sure, but some great finishes for New Zealand. Now after winning the first game, it looked like New Zealand might kick on and take the series. But no, Ireland came back with some of the best performances I've seen from any international sides in Test 2 and 3. Just fantastic stuff. Probably the greatest Irish rugby achievement ever. Let me know if you agree. Now, New Zealand tried to string that team attack together. They were attacking from anywhere on the pitch, but it just wasn't working. The Irish defensive coordination was excellent. New Zealand, their skills weren't up to what they have been in the past, and some poor discipline cost them. The Irish players just all stood up. Their back row especially was on fire, including Byrne in that back row. They've pretty much got a 4-man back row. Gibson, Park and Sexton as the generals at half-back were exceptional for sure. And in the end, Ireland are clearly the better team at the moment than the All Blacks. And I think that's a fair comment to say. Now, let that statement sink in, the Irish fans. Tour rating has to be exceeding expectations for obvious reasons. Winning an away tour in New Zealand, is rated as probably the hardest thing to do. On to Wales' tour of South Africa, and it went down to the wire, as all these series did. First test, 32-29, high-scoring stuff, a thrilling game. Wales, they were almost perfect in that first half tactically. Their kicking game was outstanding. I think Hardy's selection was a bit of a masterstroke. In the past, Gareth Davis was number one, made a few mistakes. Thomas Williams, I thought, was now the Welsh number one, but now it's Hardy. Probably got that more of an all-round game, especially if they want to play that kicking game. But 3 good scrum halves to choose from. Rhys Zammit got a brace in that first game, showing his finishing was really, really on point. Wales were down in points and players. Towards the end of the game, it looked like they didn't have a chance, but they just kept on going, got them all. A lake broke off. Great try there. And then Biggar misses the kick for the lead, and then he gives away a penalty. And South Africa just about clinch it in that thriller. So that's a bit of a what-if for Wales, definitely. In Test 2, it was a super tight one again on the scoreboard. And to be honest, it was a bit of a weird game. Firstly, South Africa rotated a lot of players. It looked an exciting South African team, but they couldn't really string it together. Their coordination was kind of all over the place, and that kind of infected Wales as well. It was messy, and Wales just hung in there waiting for that one chance, and they took it right at the end. Adams finishing out wide. Anscombe, who was a really good impact sub at 10, nails the conversion. So they're back in the game with the decider. Now in Test 3, yes, South Africa took it 30 points to 14, but it was the best game of the series so far, and both teams actually performed the best they did in the series. Wales getting their wide game going. They were trying to move the ball wide in games 1 and 2 sometimes, but they couldn't get it going till game 3, and they really got some joy outside a very good and experienced South African defence, so that was a real positive. But unfortunately for Wales, South Africa stepped up their performance as well. Their maul game much better. They even opened up a bit as well. And great try though from Wales. Tommy Raphael, really good support. He was the find of the tour, I guess, apart from Hardy for Wales. Some amazing defence from Wales, some good set-piece stuff as well, to be fair, over the whole series, and they stayed in the game till about the last 20 minutes, and the bomb squad really killed it. I think the impact of marks was pretty big for South Africa, so South Africa a bit too much in the end, but the rating, I think I'll put it as above expectations, because I think many thought that Wales might suffer a bit more of a heavy defeat in this series, and they absolutely didn't. They really stood up. It was some tough going at times, but they actually got their game going in that last test, and there's some big positives from that tour for sure. They won't go away feeling too dispirited, although there's definitely a case of what if they might have had chances to even win that tour. Now on to Scotland's tour of Argentina, and again it came down to the last test, and firstly an apology to Scotland fans. I only managed to report on one of these games because it always coincided with my children's bedtimes, and I'd watched 3 games already, so I kind of actually had to be a father at times there, so real apologies there. But anyway, it was a really exciting game. That second game that I reported on was a really good win for Scotland, 6-29. They narrowly lost the first, and it looked like they were coming back in that third, but fell away with some key mistakes in the last 20 really. And it was always going to be a tough assignment away to Argentina. They'd rested Hogg, Russell, Harris. So where does it rate? Well, I'd say it actually meets expectations. If they'd played all their star players, I think they would have expected to win it, but because they didn't, I think a narrow loss is kind of scores level, if you like. They got players in there getting some good game time. Kinghorn in at 10. The back row looking scintillating at times with Watson and Darge. Now, there maybe is a discussion to be had that Scotland sometimes fall at the last hurdle. They didn't quite execute when the pressure's on, but still, this is a good experience for all those players, and I think they'll be better for it. Now finally, this is the first look I'm having at the vote I put out there about a week ago on which team, which nation has made the most progress, improved the most over the tours. And about half the votes of over 700 votes, so a pretty good capture here, are for Ireland, and I think that's fair enough. Even though they've been playing pretty well, I guess, in the Six Nations, I think they definitely steps up here. And a historic win away to New Zealand, definitely an amazing achievement. So yeah, I think I'd go with that. Second on the vote is Wales with about 22%. And again, I think I agree with that. They played really, really tough in South Africa and could have won the tour. Then we've got England there at 12%, close to Argentina, and then a few votes for all the others. Some of you saying really no improvement for Japan, Scotland, South Africa, Australia and France. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that. But once again, thank you very much for watching all my reports on those July series. Some exciting stuff, and congratulations for Ireland coming out top of that vote. I think it's well deserved. Anyway guys, I will catch you next time.